Week 3 of the NFL season kicked off Thursday night, and we watched the epic battle between two AFC East rivals in the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And I think that we all thought that game was going to look a lot differently. But to be honest, that was a pretty close game. But, before we get to that, why don't we go ahead and look back at the Week 2 of the NFL season. Week 2, the average margin of victory, and actually, if you look at Week 1, it was only about a one-score game for a lot of those games, so the average margin of victory was just 7.5 points. This past week, there was a little bit of an uptick, as it was 10.5 points per game for the average margin of victory, and the big reason for this was Week 1, there was actually 13 of the 16 games were one-score games. And Week 2, there was only 8 of which. And then there was, of course, a couple of blowouts with 3 teams getting mollywopped in the Cleveland Browns and Chicago Bears and the New York Jets, which I feel as though we pretty much expected. But, if you're a fan of any one of those teams, I don't think you should fear anything, because I at least do have all 3 of those teams projected with at least around 7 wins this year. But, so I think that we should kick this one off with a few game reviews, 3 of the closest games of Week 2. So the first one was an NFC East rivalry game with the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. And I feel like these games in this division, they're always pretty close games. And boy, was there a lot of offense scored in this one. The Dallas Cowboys did end up winning it, and they scored 40 points. The Giants also did really well in this one offensively. They had 37 points. And, I know, I get it. The first week of the season, Russell Wilson didn't look too great. And after this one, it may have you questioning, whether or not they should just go ahead and plug in the rookie Jackson Dart. Because, Russ was 30 of 41. He threw for well over 400 yards, 450 to be exact. And he also had 3 touchdowns. So, believe it or not, he kind of looked like the Russ of old, the Seattle Seahawk version of Russ. And there was a lot to like if you're a Giants fan in this one. Whether it was Russ bringing back the moon ball or their rookie running back Cam Scatterbo running people over. Malik Neighbors, incredible numbers, 9 receptions, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Even Wan'Dale Robinson went off and had over 140 yards with 8 catches and a touchdown. Darius Slayton got a little bit of work in, 61 yards on 2 receptions. But really, it was more so their defense that was lacking in this game, which is odd because coming into the season, we all thought that this defense would be pretty much, the best part of this team. And Dallas, man, what a show. What a show they put on. CeeDee Lamb also had over 100 yards, 9 receptions. Jake Ferguson, in his own right, had 9 catches for 78 yards. Pickens had a touchdown, and we love to see that out of George Pickens. So obviously him and Dak are gaining somewhat of a rapport there. Dak had over 360 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, wow, he went 38 of 52. But yeah, both of these teams just have to do a better job defensively. One of the better parts of the defense for the Giants this past week was actually Paulson Adebo. 13 tackles, 11 of them were solo tackles. Wow, they had a couple of guys with double-digit tackles here. They didn't have anybody exceed double-digit tackles for the Cowboys. But really, like I said, going forward, both of these teams, if they can keep that kind of offense, then watch out. Watch out the rest of the division and the Commanders and the Eagles. But the rest of the league, really. I mean, we don't really expect a whole lot from the Giants this year. And there's even reports out there that, maybe Dable is going to be on the hot seat if they get another loss and start the season 0-3. And, I hope for his sake that that's not at all the truth, because, I mean, you'd hate to see the Chiefs, regardless of what team you are, you'd hate to see the Chiefs when they're already 0-2 and have lost 3 consecutive games dating back to last year's Super Bowl. So that's going to be a tough one, and hopefully the reports are not true, because that would be tough to lose to the Chiefs and then possibly end up losing your job. I don't know, but at some point, maybe the Giants will turn it around. I just don't think that it's going to be this week on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a tough game. The second game that I want to talk about. Now, if you did not see this game, this was a crazy game. There was a ton of penalties in this game, and I didn't actually look at the statistics to see, but I feel like this game, out of the first 2 weeks at least, probably had the most penalties of any game thus far. It was penalties on both teams. It was the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. And, I'm a Broncos fan, so Denver, Bronco Nation, I get it. This was a tough one. And the outcome, it kind of had us wondering yet again with the refs, the way that they called this, because, I mean, I get it. Denver deserved to lose. Bo Nix was driving Denver down the field, and they could have, scored at least a field goal. Bo kind of threw a duck, and it ended up being intercepted, and that led Indy to drive down the field the other way. They didn't get far because as time was running out, they went for a 60-yard field goal. And with their kicker, who has yet to miss a kick in the NFL, actually missed the kick. But wait, the game didn't end. What happened was they called a nonsense penalty and said, it was a leverage penalty, that the Bronco, one of the linemen, was using one of the Colts' back to, jump up to get leverage, and I don't know. I just know it was a lousy way because it had went to triple zeros. The Broncos actually at first won the game 28-26. Then they called that penalty, moved the chains 15 yards upfield. So Indianapolis got to kick another kick, and he wasn't going to miss it again. And they ended up winning 29-28. And then when you go back and you look at earlier in the game, when Denver had a field goal, the same thing actually happened but wasn't called. But again, hey, a loss is a loss. Credit to the Indianapolis Colts, 2-0 for the first time in about a decade. And Daniel Jones once again showed up and showed out, 23-34, 316 yards and a touchdown. And he didn't really run a lot, but he did run in a touchdown from 2 yards out. Jonathan Taylor had a great game. 25 carries, 165 yards, an average of over 6.5 per carry. And then you look at Tyler Warren, again, looking like one of the better young rookies in the league, if not the best tight end right now in football. 4 catches for 79 yards. Alec Pierce, 4 catches for 68 yards. Josh Downs had 6 catches for 51 yards. The only touchdown that was caught actually was by Jonathan Taylor. Then you look at Denver. Bo Nix had just 8 incompletions, 22 of 30, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, and as I already said, that 1 interception, which in reality kind of cost them the game. J.K. Dobbins, again, first 2 weeks, this is looking like a great free agent signing by Denver. He had 14 carries for 76 yards, averaged over 5 yards per carry, and he had a touchdown to top it off. Troy Franklin, he had 8 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown, who it looks like they're getting that chemistry back, Troy and Bo Nix. They also played together in college in Oregon. And, last year, Troy didn't really show a lot. And honestly, it looked like he was on the bubble for even possibly being cut coming into this year. So this is, you really love to see this out of him. And Marvin Mims also, he had 2 catches, 24 yards, and a touchdown. We're expecting more and better things out of Marvin Mims Jr., but I get it. Troy already has chemistry dating back to college, like I just said with Bo. And plus Marvin Mims, they utilize him as not just a receiver, but he's also their punt returner and kick returner. Pretty much no-show from Cortland Sutton, who only had 1 catch, so yeah, I get it. People are getting loud about it. If you have him in fantasy, what is this going to mean for Cortland's work this year? He did get a huge contract extension right before the season started. So, maybe in the next couple of weeks, Cortland's going to have a better outing. Hopefully he strings a bunch together. But to be honest, guys, this upcoming week against the Chargers, he famously does not do great against the Chargers. So I don't know if you want to take your fantasy advice from me, but I don't know. Maybe just plug him in as a flex, not a receiver 1 or 2. Then you look at the defense for this game, and Pat Surtain had 11 tackles, 9 of which were solos, and a pass defense. Talanoa Hufanga had 10 tackles as well, which, again, that is another free agent signing by the Denver Broncos, and that looks like, he's really showing up big time for this defense. Alex Singleton had 8 tackles, 4 solo. Denver, I don't know. I think Denver only ended up with 1 sack in this game. We'll get to that in a second. And then you look at the other side with Indy's defense. Nick Cross, who was fantastic for the Colts all last year. He had 7 tackles and a pass defense. Grover Stewart also had 7 tackles, and so did Joe Bashi. DeForest Buckner had a really good game as well. But there was only 1 sack by Denver. I don't believe that Indy didn't have any sacks at all, so that was, a very strong offensive line play by the Denver Broncos. And the only one that accumulated a sack in this game, Justin Strenard, middle linebacker for the Broncos. Now let's get on to the Monday night game. Monday night was a very close game. It was an incredible game, a 1-point victory by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And really, it looked like the Houston Texans were going to hold on to this one. They were up the majority of the game, and it came down to Baker Mayfield coming back on the very last drive. He's going to get a little bit of help this week against Jacksonville with Christian Kirk coming back after being out with a hamstring injury. But CJ, with this offensive line, they really need to figure out the offensive line because he's just not getting any time. He was sacked 3 times in this game. He did go 13-24. He did get over 200 yards, barely, and he threw a touchdown. No turnovers for him. Baker was 25 of 38 for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs. And, one of the reasons why Houston kept it so close was because this defense that they have, man, this defense is for real. They have one of the best defensive lines in the league. They have one of the best group of DBs in the league. And they sacked Baker 4 times. Actually, Baker, I don't know if it was reported whether he's going to be okay or not for tomorrow. I would think that he probably will be. But it did look like he kind of tweaked his knee. But he never came out of the game. So credit to Baker, man. He is just looking better and better with every given game and each and every season since everything that happened in Cleveland. I don't think that Baker truly gets enough credit because he is much more than a game manager. He really is. And Bucky Irving had a really good game, 17 carries for 71 yards. So did their second back, and Rachaad White. He also had 65 yards and a touchdown. Nick Chubb had a pretty decent game, I guess. But again, this offensive line, not that Nick Chubb is going to be able to return to the same player he was in Cleveland before those injuries, but I mean, he did pretty decent. He had 43 yards on 12 carries, so a little over 3.5 yards per carry. He did also get them a touchdown. And going forward, I think that this is going to be a two-back system with Woody Marks, their rookie running back. Joe Mixon, I really don't know if he's going to play at all this year. When you look at it and see what the coaching staff has been saying about his injury, they're not really leaning too much one way or another. At first, it looked like maybe he'd be out for the first 4 to 6 weeks. It was also a non-football injury, so I don't know that there's a lot out there about, the injury. But I think that there is a realistic possibility that if we do see him at all, it won't be until maybe like halfway through the year. And like I said, Houston's going to get, one of their receivers back, because to this point, CJ's kind of just been trying to spread it out to everybody. They got a couple of rookie receivers who haven't really showed up big yet. They also have Xavier Hutchinson, who's been there for, I feel like, a few years now. Nico Collins is their number one. In this particular game, he had 3 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. Then you look at the other side, Mike Evans, just being Mike Evans. He didn't have a great game because, again, this defense for Houston, man, they're seriously good. They're a top 3 unit. You could even argue that they're the best in the league right now. And Mike Evans had 5 catches for 56 yards. Bucky Irving added in 6 catches for 50 yards with his 71 yards on the ground. Then they had Sterling Shepard, 4 catches, 34 yards, and Emeka Egbuka, the rookie receiver, had 4 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. And so for him, that's the second consecutive week now where he had a touchdown. Plus, they still got Chris Godwin that's going to be coming back at some point. And we really haven't seen a whole lot of Cade Otton either, their tight end, who did a lot of big things last year for Tampa. So there's a lot to be happy about when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Houston, I don't really think that you should be all that concerned with the start because, there's a lot of football left. So, just, try to stay positive because we still got a long way to go. And so now let's get on to the next topic. By the numbers, we're going to go down the offenses, the defenses, and do like top 5s essentially for every statistical category almost by team. So as you just seen there, top 5 teams prior to Thursday night's game, because this is just through obviously the first 2 weeks of the season. Baltimore Ravens lead the way with 81 points so far this year. The Buffalo Bills, again, prior to Thursday night, were second in the league with 71 points. Detroit has 65 points, mainly really because of week 2, putting 52 points up. That's always going to obviously propel your team's total score through the first 2 games. Indianapolis Colts, 62 points through the first 2 weeks, which, again, you can't say enough, good stuff about this offense. And what Shane Steichen has done, they have not looked this great since Andrew Luck, but I think even before that, really, since Peyton Manning. Dallas Cowboys coming at number 5 with 60 points so far on the year. The Buffalo Bills, first place in total yards so far with 900 yards. Indianapolis Colts in second with 891 yards. Dallas Cowboys, third place with 785. Jacksonville Jaguars, that one's shocking. They're in fourth at 778 yards. I don't really know where the yards are going other than NTN because haven't really seen a whole lot of Brian Thomas Jr. thus far. And number 5 is the Detroit Lions with 757 yards. So maybe losing, Ben Johnson hasn't really affected them the way that we thought yet. Top 5 defense in points allowed and yards allowed. So the LA Rams, man, the LA Rams have only allowed 28 points through the first 2 weeks of the season. Atlanta, 29, so they're right there. And the Falcons, that is great for Atlanta Falcons because last year their defense left a ton, to be desired. We thought that they were going to be really good last year, especially going right, before that we went into the season, signing Justin Simmons that did not. I mean, I feel like he had enough production for them to keep him, but I guess it didn't really work out from their standpoint. And Matthew Judon, that certainly, he did not have the production that people were used to seeing him have in New England. But, kudos to Atlanta so far and Raheem Morris. The Chargers are third, only allowing 30 points through the first 2 weeks of the season, and that was playing back-to-back, division games with KC in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then the Raiders, obviously. And now they're playing the Denver Broncos this week. So that is to start the season with 3 consecutive divisional games. That's insane. And the Green Bay Packers are fourth with 31 points. And fifth place is a tie between Vegas and Washington, only allowing 33 points so far. And in terms of yards, the Cleveland Browns may not be great at a lot of things, but their defense is pretty dang good. They've only allowed 383 yards through the first 2 weeks of the season. Atlanta has only allowed 458 yards. Green Bay has only let up 476 yards. The Rams are in fourth, 517, and the Indianapolis Colts with only 535. So that is really good. And then let's look at other defensive stats. Sacks, New England so far leads the league with 9. And then in second place, we have a 3-way tie with 8 sacks. That is the New Orleans Saints, the Green Bay Packers, and the Los Angeles Rams. And then number 3, another 3-way tie here with the Houston Texans, Atlanta Falcons, and the Denver Broncos with 7 sacks. In terms of interceptions, Jacksonville has had 5. That leads the way. Cincinnati and Seattle are tied for second with 4. So, hey, at least Cincinnati's defense is doing something right, And Indianapolis, the Rams, and Tennessee are all tied for third with 3 interceptions. And that's going to do it for the team stats. So now we'll move on to what I like to call leading the way. And as you just seen, we're going to get into, quarterback stats, receiver stats, running back stats. So, passing yards, the craziest part about the stats so far through only 2 games. But I had to point out, it's 2 quarterbacks, in first and second that nobody was really high on going into the year. Russell Wilson leads the league with 618 yards, and, obviously thanks to putting up 450 yards against Dallas Cowboys this past week. And then Daniel Jones in second with 588 yards. I mean, who knew, right? Who knew the man could throw the ball? I don't know. I've been definitely been on record many times for not being a believer. But how can you say anything else, especially when he does it against your own team? Okay. So credit to Daniel Jones. Maybe I was wrong, we'll see. He still only has, I believe, 2 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks passing. But, hey. And then when you look at passing touchdowns, both Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff are tied with 6 touchdowns. Second place is another tie with Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers, both throwing 5 touchdowns each. Rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor already off to a great start, 236 yards. And Travis Etienne, 214 yards. Didn't really know what to expect from him this year. I still had faith in him, but I did think that it was going to be more of a 2 running back system there with Tank Bigsby. Obviously, Tank Bigsby is no longer a Jacksonville Jaguar. He was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles after week 1. They have 2 rookies backing him up in Jacksonville, and I don't really know too much about either one of them, but it looks like NTN is going to be the bell cow for the foreseeable future, at least. And rushing touchdowns, James Cook, 3 rushing touchdowns. Again, this is prior to Thursday night. Was already leading the league. And actually tied, rather, because Javonte Williams also 3 touchdowns, which, again, hey, I like Javonte Williams. I seen a lot of him. I seen game tape when he was in North Carolina. He was incredible. When he came into the league, the Denver Broncos drafted him. He was kind of like a Marshawn Lynch, like a run-through-you type of back. And after that injury, he didn't really seem like he was going to be the same. But so far, especially with us not knowing what that offensive line was going to look like in Dallas. But so far, Javonte has proved me wrong. He has looked pretty dang good. Receiving yards, you got Malik Neighbors, which is by no surprise, is leading the league in receiving yards with 238. Jackson Smith and Jigba has 227 yards, and CeeDee Lamb is good for 3rd place with 222. When it comes to receiving touchdowns, you got St. Brown from the Detroit Lions, Rome Odunze, 2nd-year wide receiver out of Chicago, and the rookie receiver, Aguka from Tampa Bay, all tied with 3 touchdowns. And total receptions, you got Puka Nacua in 1st place with 18. Again, Njigba is on this list again. He is 2nd in receptions with 17. And then Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb are both tied with 16, which is 3rd best in the league thus far. And so, this next part is, we're only 2 weeks in, but we do this after each and every week. We sit here and, whether it's your team played on Sunday and you're looking at it on Monday, or your team plays on Monday night and you're looking at it on Tuesday morning, there's always going to be overreactions. For the teams that started out 2-0, like San Francisco 49ers, they're going to win the Super Bowl, right? Is it realistic? Who knows? We really don't know yet, but I don't think so. Then you look at teams that are 0-2, like the Houston Texans, and say, that's it. We're throwing in the towel. There's no reason to watch them anymore. I don't think that you should be that worried, but, there are some teams out there, maybe that you should be worried about if you're like, I don't know, Carolina Panthers fan. Let's get into overreactions. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have paid a large amount of their salary cap to their defense, and they haven't looked great. So far they've given up the 4th most yards, 789 yards. That's a lot through only 2 weeks in the season. And especially with us not only seeing the free agent signings and the trade for Jalen Ramsey, but, we just watched them repay an extension for TJ Watt, a massive deal. And obviously Cam Hayward as well was very vocal that he wanted a new deal. And I gotta say, so far it's not looking great. 25th against the pass, 490 yards. And again, they put a lot into that DB group when they traded for Jalen Ramsey. And, at this point in his career, he's still kind of one of the better corners in the league. I get it. He's a little up in age. Same thing with Darius Slay, free agent signing. But again, we thought that them putting this veteran class together on defense, that they would be a top 5 defense this year. Certainly a top 10. So for them to start out 25th against the pass, giving up the 4th most yards, and even their scoring defense. 29th in the league. They've already allowed 63 points. They have had a couple of turnovers. They only have 3 sacks thus far, though. I don't know, So their defense being the top paid unit for nothing, is that an overreaction or not? Through 2 weeks, I think it's not an overreaction, Past that, I guess we can revisit that later in the year. But as of right now, no, it's not an overreaction. You paid this team. The Steelers have been notorious for great defenses, not only through the 20-something seasons that Mike Tomlin's been there, but throughout the history of their team. That's why they were called the Steel Curtain. So, I guess we shouldn't compare the Steelers of the 70s, 80s, and 90s to today's defense. But with the names that's on that defense, this should be a much better unit than what we've seen. Especially because the 2 teams that they've played, it's not like they played back-to-back weeks against the Eagles and the Chiefs, or even the Cowboys, I guess, because of the amount of points the Cowboys have been scoring. I don't know. This is kind of crazy to me. But, so the Texans, this is a team, again, that started out 0-2 right now. And their season is in jeopardy, right? Is that an overreaction or not? Well, when you look at the numbers so far, they are 28th in total offensive yards with 531, only putting up about 265 per game. And that is, in my opinion, that's because of the offensive line. Just like we were talking about all last year, they're not giving CJ enough time. You could also say for the fact that they have, a couple of receivers that are injured. Christian Kirk has not played yet. Obviously, Tank Dell getting injured in Week 16 of last year is expected to miss the whole year. So really, they only have Nico Collins. Joe Mixon's been injured. They traded away one of the better left tackles in all of football, Laramie Tunsil, to Washington. So, it's not that we expected their offense to be, levels better than they were last year. I think what they did is they just added more talent around CJ, hoping that the offensive line woes would kind of figure itself out, or at least he would have more options to try and get the ball out quicker. I don't really understand it. Maybe it has to do with the salary cap, but they got to figure that offensive line out going forward, or it's not going to be great. And that's also why they're 28th in passing yards, only 333 yards, which is 166.5 per game. 20th in rushing yards, only 198 total rushing yards. 32nd in scoring, 28 points through only 2 weeks, 14 points per game. Guys, we've seen it. Tampa Bay, they have a formidable defense, right? It's not a top 5, top 10 unit, in my opinion. So, for them to only put up 19 points against Tampa, I think that's kind of proof right there. Against the Rams, I feel like that's kind of different because the Rams are showing so far, and even last year, really, for the better part of the season, their defense was pretty stingy. But against Tampa, and now this week against Jacksonville, Jacksonville's defense looks better than last year, but I think that this will be the week where if Houston is going to get back not get back to what they were 2 years ago, but if they're going to look like a team that could possibly make a playoff run this year, they got to do something huge against Jacksonville's defense this week. And also, they have allowed, which again, credit to me for what I just said, the offensive line. They've allowed 6 sacks already in 2 weeks, which is the 25th ranked team in that category. And again, we looked at last year, and CJ was on his back, 52 times or something like that. He was the second most sacked quarterback in the league. Only Caleb Williams and the Bears were worse in that category. Minnesota Vikings. So, Minnesota Vikings, they started out week 1, a great story, right, for J.J. McCarthy in his very first game in the regular season, going home to Chicago, and didn't look great in the first half of the game. And whether you want to say Chicago let them back in the game, or that J.J. McCarthy completely took over the game and single-handedly willed them to a victory in his hometown, it looked great. Week 2, not so much. We didn't expect Atlanta to beat the Vikings like that. Maybe it also had something to do with back-to-back primetime games to start the kid's career. But in any manner, they got to go on now without JJ, as he is obviously out 2 to 4 weeks. So Minnesota signed Carson Wentz. And, we'll see how this works out with Kevin O'Connell getting another quarterback in here. And I guess we'll judge it that way to see whether or not it was a huge mistake letting Darnold walk. I don't know. I guess you could really argue that Sam Darnold should have stayed at least one more year, and JJ could have. I don't know, because it's, he got injured. It's an injury, so it's kind of hard to tell. But so far, they're 31st in total yards, and 30th in passing yards, 20th in rushing yards. Obviously Aaron Jones was also injured too. They do have a really decent backup running back in Jordan Mason, who we've seen a lot out of last year. He almost had 1,000 yards coming in to play the backup role for San Fran when Christian McCaffrey went down. And Minnesota's also tied for 28th in scoring, just 33 points, 16.5 a game. So, as of right now, letting Darnold walk, if you want to say that, I don't think it's an overreaction. Just saying. Cincinnati Bengals playoff hopes are over, right? That's what the Bengals fans are probably saying. The first time they start 2-0 since, 2015, I think? And, everything looked like it was going to be great, and, oh no, what happened? Their quarterback, Joe Burrow, went down. And he's at least out until December with a turf toe injury? This is insane, man. Actually, it's the first time they were 2-0 since 2018. That year they went 6-10 and missed the playoffs. 2015 and 2014 they got off to 2-0 starts, and each of those 2 years they actually started not only 2-0 but 3-0. However, they lost in the wild card round in both seasons. And so like I said, it's tough, because now you're going to be without Burrow for at least until, week 15? Maybe week 16? And that's at minimum. It was a grade 3 turf toe, plus he tore a ligament in his left foot. But from what I've seen, he did have a successful surgery yesterday on his foot. But yeah, I guess maybe if we go another 6 weeks, maybe we'll get more of a better update, and we'll know maybe he can come back a little earlier, but it's kind of, doubtable that he'll return any earlier than midway through December. So, again, this is very unfortunate for the Bengals, and, for people that are saying that their playoff hopes are over, they're finished, I don't think it's an overreaction. I mean, they still got to play Baltimore twice. They play Denver in a few weeks. They play Pittsburgh twice still. Even Cleveland. Cleveland, that was a very closely contested game. It was 17-16 was the final in week 1. I mean, with the offense that you have, I get it. Cleveland's defense is pretty dang good, right? But with the offense that Cincinnati has, when they had Burrow in week 1, you would have loved to seen a blowout. That would have given you more positivity going forward. And I mean, we seen a couple years ago, they have a decent backup quarterback in Browning. However, he did come in and throw out 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. So, and I think that that's probably one of the reasons why they went out and signed 2 more quarterbacks. I mean, no doubt Browning's going to be the starter until he proves them that he can't. But yeah, this is it's a crazy situation, Bengals. I'm sorry. And lastly, Eagles will repeat and win for the second consecutive year. Will be the champions. Is that an overreaction or is it not? Well, let's look at the numbers. So far, they are 17th in scoring, 44 points, 22 points per game, 29th in total yards with 518. That is just 259 yards a game. 31st in passing yards. That was the issue last season, right? They could run the ball, but didn't really seem like they could throw the ball. So, I mean, what's going on? I mean, they're supposed to have, according to Eagles fans at least, the best O-line in the league, right? Well, 31st in passing yards doesn't really show me anything there. They are, however, 7th in rushing yards with 280. But to only have 238 total passing yards through 2 games, 119 yards per game, that is a crazy stat. But it's only 2 weeks. The Chiefs do have a decent defense. Dallas, on the other hand, it looked like they had a pretty good defense in week 1. Week 2, they gave up 37 points to the Giants. So maybe there's something to be said there about Philly's lack of... But hey, look. Their defense, they are 12th in scoring defense. Only giving up 37 points through 2 weeks. So you do have that to hang your hat on. But in terms of saying that the Eagles will repeat after going 2-0, that is definitely an overreaction. And I, for one, think that maybe we'll get a little bit of a clearer picture after this week when they play the Rams. And now let's go on to recap what happened on Thursday Night Football. So, the spread for the Thursday night game was 11.5 points. We're going to Miami, and some sports books actually had Miami plus 12.5. And I wish that I would have been able to do this episode prior, because I was on record saying that it was going to be either a one-score game or it was going to be a 10-point deficit. And, for a while there, it looked like Miami could have actually stole that game. And the final ended up being 31-21, obviously with the Buffalo Bills once again beating Miami. But again, props to Miami for covering as 11.5 dogs. And Tua looked decent, right? I mean, 22 of 34. It was only for 146 yards, though. He did have 2 touchdowns. The interception is pretty much what cost them the game, because, again, it really did look like Miami was actually going to win this game. Devon Achane had 62 yards on the ground, plus another 7 receptions and 29 yards through the air. Ollie Gordon II, who is the rookie running back, came in and got cleanup duty. He had 38 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries, averaged over 4 yards per carry. And that looked like the perfect scenario for Miami. Going forward, I think they're going to have that 2-back system the little scat back who can, obviously we see him all the time going out and catching a lot of passes for Miami in Devon Achane. But Ollie Gordon just being the north-south runner, I think that that's something that they really needed, and I think that that could only help their offense going forward. So, like, for example, Miami now starting 0-3, saying that their season is completely done and over with, that I believe to be an overreaction. I think, especially when you look at their schedule over the next couple of weeks, I think Miami could steal probably maybe 2 or 3 wins over the next 5 games. I certainly still believe what I said coming into the year, that Miami could even possibly get around 10 wins. I don't have them, even before the season started, I didn't have them making the playoffs, but I don't think it's over, and if they were to lose next week, maybe there is a real conversation to be had about whether or not they, get rid of Mike McDaniel. But of anybody that's available, I think McDaniel is the best option that they could possibly have. And also, if that were to happen, would Tyreek Hill possibly get traded? Would Tua maybe be done as a starter in the league? I don't know. I think Tua could still be a starter, even if McDaniel gets fired. I think Tyreek Hill, I think that would be something that they would explore, especially with all the off-field issues that has, again, resurfaced for like the 4th time in 2 seasons now. But Tyreek Hill, credit to him, he did drop a pass that could have possibly went for a touchdown, but he did have 5 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. Certainly not the numbers that we were used to out of Tyreek Hill, but he still got a little bit of juice left. Jalen Waddle also had 5 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. And like I said, Devon Achane, 7 catches. That's huge, especially for the people that play fantasy football and have him. He had great numbers. He had like 24 points or more, I believe, on Thursday. James Cook, well, actually, Josh Allen, let's get to first. 22 of 28 with only 6 incompletions. 213 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, not a single turnover. He also sprinkled in 25 yards on the ground. James Cook had 19 carries, 108 yards and a touchdown, over 5.5 yards per carry. And he also had 2 receptions for 10 yards. 3 receptions. Dalton Kincaid came up pretty big for Buffalo. 5 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Khalil Shakir also had a touchdown with 4 catches over 45 yards. Elijah Moore is looking more and more like the receiver that he was when he came out in the draft to the New York Jets. I think that going forward, he may be, one of the top 3 targets for Josh Allen to look to. Both defenses, both defenses played pretty solid. Miami played a little bit better than we thought. Buffalo ended up having about 3 or 4 3-and-outs in this game. So for Miami's defense to hold Buffalo, and especially now to the point of how great Josh Allen is in this point in his career, if Miami can stop Josh Allen on any possession that they have, I think that's saying a lot about their defense. Their defense certainly played better than I would have thought. They were missing a couple of pieces on the defense. A couple of their corners, I think their top 3 corners were all out in this game. So, again, credit to them. And Terrell Dodson was the brightest point of the defense for Miami. 11 tackles, all of which were solo. And he also had a sack, a QB hit, a tackle for a loss, and a pass defense. So, hey, man, putting up great numbers for that young man at least. And Miami, I think better days are ahead, and they may be a little bit sooner than we think. So there's that to fall back on. And so now I'm going to get to my weekly picks. And as you just seen, all the games are obviously in Eastern time. And, going back to the past 2 weeks, week 1 I went 3-4 with my picks. Obviously not great. However, it was better than last week's. Last week, I ended up going 2-5. So through the first 2 weeks, yes, if you can do math, I am 5-9. But I look to get back on track this week, and I think that I should definitely get at least 5, if not win all 6 of my games. I am going with the LA Rams to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. And now, before people, want to go off on me, especially the Eagles fans, obviously, the Rams, the Eagles actually lead the series all time when they've played each other, 25-20-1. But some of those games were actually going back to when they were the Cleveland Rams. And if you are only in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, or maybe even 50s, you're not going to realize that they used to be called the Cleveland Rams when they first came in the league. But guess what? I did my research, and they were. So ever since they've been St. Louis or Los Angeles Rams, Philly still leads the series 23-16-1 and are 14-9 at home. However, let's look at some other stats here, right? So the Rams are 1-5 versus Philly ever since the Rams have had Sean McVay as their head coach. But they are also just 1-1 when playing at Philly, right? So, I mean, hey, who's to say they can't go 2-1 at Philly? Also, by the way, if you did not know, when playing on the East Coast, they are 12-5 with Sean McVay. When they play on the East Coast, they are 12-5 and 11-3 when playing in 1 p.m. games. So, again, hey, maybe numbers don't matter to you, maybe numbers do. But I like my chances with Sean McVay. The way this team is looking, this Rams, compared to last year's Rams, so far offensively, are a more explosive team. Their defense so far through 2 weeks looks better than they did last year. So, I mean, and if you really look at last year, in the playoffs, when the Rams had to come to Philly, even though it was elements of which the Rams are not used to playing in the snow and in the cold, it came down to one play, guys. It was much closer than people would have you believe. It came down to the last play of the game, and Matthew Stafford threw the ball out of bounds on 4th down. So, I mean, if he completes that pass to Puka Nacua, who I believe was his target on that play, or would have been if he didn't throw it out of bounds, they would have got a first down or a touchdown and would have probably, more than likely, win that game. So, again, that just solidifies why I'm picking the Rams. Second game, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Washington Commanders, another 1 o'clock game. I am taking the Jaden Daniels because he will not be playing Washington Commanders. Daniels will be out with a knee sprain, but, no fear if you're a Washington fan. It's only the Raiders, number one. Number two, you have a pretty decent backup quarterback in Marcus Mariota who could probably do some of the things that Jaden Daniels can do. They have a plethora of talent around him. So I think that they're in a good place. Now, when you look at the all-time series between these two teams, the Raiders are actually 8-7 against Washington and 4-3 when playing in Washington. So, hey, take that for, what you want. But I do have Washington coming in and winning this game. The third game, the Houston Texans, who we already discussed, have not yet got a win. They are playing in Jacksonville against their divisional foes. Jacksonville is 1-1. Houston does lead the all-time series 31-15. And when playing in Jacksonville, they are 15-8. Give me Houston all day long. Christian Kirk is back. He's going to have a revenge game against Jacksonville. And, I don't think they win by a lot. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do firmly believe that the Houston Texans will win this one. The Chargers, in this series, Denver actually leads the series 73-57-1. 3-6 when playing in LA all time. And, 3-5 since 2017. Since Justin Herbert has been in the league, they are actually 1-4 against Denver. And, Denver is 1-4 at LA since Justin Herbert. But in totality, ever since Justin Herbert came in the league, when Denver and LA play each other just in general, they are 5-5. So, I like my chances, not just because they're my team, but I think Denver has something to prove after that crazy way to lose a game against Indy. The defense has to step it up. They will be without Evan Ingram, who suffered somewhat of a back injury against Indy. They will still be without Dre Greenlaw, but it looks like everybody else on that side is a go. The Chargers obviously won't have their tackle, their number one left tackle. I think that they may actually be missing a couple of guys. I know Khalil Mack went down. But for the most part, both teams are going to be, pretty healthy. And I think this will be another close game, but I do like the Denver Broncos, so give me Denver. The fifth game, Arizona Cardinals at San Francisco. Both teams so far are 2-0. They are also divisional rivals, the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers lead the series 36-31. And when Arizona plays at San Fran, they're actually 15-20, 10-16 since going to Arizona and Phoenix, because they actually used to be under the Chicago. They used to be the Chicago Racers or something like that, and they were also another team prior to that. But since they've been in the state of Arizona and have played each other, they are 10-16 against San Fran. The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan are 3-5 at home against Arizona. Kyler Murray is 4-4 when he plays against San Fran, and when he plays in San Fran, he is actually 2-1 since he came into the league. So nothing new for Kyler, and I think that, with all the talk about San Fran and Seattle and the Rams, I do think the Rams are the best team in that division, but I've been saying it, I've been pounding the table for the past 2 years about Arizona being a better team than people think. Arizona proved me right. I got them beating San Fran in San Fran. And then lastly, but not least, the Monday Night Football game, the Detroit Lions, who are 1-1, going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, who are also 1-1. Baltimore leads the all-time series, 6-1. And when they play Detroit at home, they are undefeated, 4-0. Also, a good fact to know is under John Harbaugh, Baltimore is 5-0. This is a great one. Baltimore has outscored Detroit all time, 203-107. And Lamar Jackson, if you did not know, is 39-13 at home in his career. He is also 24-4 all time against the NFC. Plus, he is 11-2 when he plays an NFC team at home. And lastly, he is a total of 3-0 against the NFC North. Now, 3-0, that may not make sense to you. He has played the Lions twice in his career. He has also played the Vikings. He has not yet in his career. This will be the first season that he will be playing the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. And you may say, well, how could that possibly be? Well, because when you go back and look, like I did, he was actually injured back in 2021 when they played that division, and Aaron Huntley had to come in and play against the Bears and the Packers. So, yeah, again, Lamar, when it comes to the NFC, He does his thing every single time. There's only been 4 teams that have ever beat him. He's only lost 13 times in his career at home, whether that's the postseason or regular season. So give me the Baltimore Ravens. And guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Elite Sports Talk. And, I appreciate the viewership. I appreciate anybody that's listening on Spotify. And I hope we have, a great week 3 of the NFL season. And hopefully we can get a couple more episodes for next week. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.